Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Learning Corner. I am Jackie, and today I'm going to do an update for you on what I am currently reading. So this is what I am still reading right now. I was able to finish 2 more books before the end of March, which were 80 Around the World in 80 Days and The Curse of Crow Hollow, which that counted as one of my books for, and horror books that weren't Stephen King books. Because, I've said that I'm trying to read more horror books that aren't in the Stephen King genre. And actually I have been tempted for like a second to check out House of Leaves, but I don't know if I could do that, because that'd be so much. But, maybe I could. I could try it. But I wouldn't want to buy it cheap, like at a online used bookstore or something, so I don't end up wasting my money if I regret it. But I really enjoyed Curse of Crow Hollow. That was really fun. It had a very Stephen King feel to it. It had the small town, and it had religion. It was dealing with religion and the dark side of religion, and why a lot of people don't trust organized religion and have a problem with it even. And it dealt with how people will turn against each other, and everyone has skeletons in their closet. Like, when people are scared, they become desperate and dumb, in my opinion, and will turn on you. And it really showed, and it highlighted the demons that we hide inside of ourselves. In some cases, literally. Not in the whole, like super, well, actually, there was a supernatural element to the story, but the demons weren't that literal in the sense that there were real. Well, there might have been a demon. It's kind of an open-ended story where you don't know which I do like. I like when you don't know. My only conflict is that I want it to be something supernatural, and I get disappointed if it turns out, oh, it's just inside the person's head. They're just crazy. Like, I always get disappointed when it turns out to be that way. I always want it to be like, oh, they were right all along. There really was something supernatural going on. In this case, it did feel like there was, but there was still a niggling doubt. Like, that maybe this is really more about the evil within people, without the encouragement of something actual, literal, supernatural. But I'm pretty sure it was. And then Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. I definitely prefer that one over 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, because as I said in my wrap-up, something actually happened in that one. And it was actually exciting, and something like the antagonist was actually a real threat. Like, the antagonist actually did stuff. It wasn't just like, oh, you're not allowed to leave, And then, I'm not going to really do anything. I'm just going to tell you about my hobby. Like, the antagonist in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, who I'm assuming was supposed to be the antagonist, was just kind of a disappointment because nothing happened and they weren't in any real danger except for the fact that they couldn't leave the submarine. I can never say that word. And now it sounds worse because I'm congested right now. Although at least I don't feel like I have something back on my throat to where I have a hard time talking. But anyway, so this one actually stuff was going on. There was actually some actual danger. Nothing like, oh, the characters. Well, there's a little bit of characters could potentially die in the book, but it wasn't like a lot of the horror books today. Which, it's not a horror book, it's an adventure story. But, yeah, that one, Around the World in 80 Days, is really fun. And I do believe there were some changes in the one movie adaptation, because I don't know if there's any other adaptations. The only one I know of is the one where Jackie Chan plays the servant for Phileas Fogg. And I know the actor, but I cannot remember his name. The actor who plays Phileas Fogg. He's one of the, and they also changed the female love interest in that one as well. She's in the book. She's actually an Indian woman, but she's in the book. I think she's an English woman or a French woman in that movie adaptation. Anyway, so I am still currently making my way through Anna Karenina, and I love this book and all the political discussions, and like I don't agree with what Tolstoy's political beliefs were, but it is still very intriguing, the debates that the characters have about socialism, and it does get you thinking. I mean, I still don't agree with it, but um and the love stories, I feel like they're very much going back and forth. They have this like seesaw effect where one is good and one is bad, one is good and one is bad. And although it's not bad, like it doesn't get, well, one of them is worse than the other, I will say, because of how it comes about. Um, I would be curious to see the adaptation. I don't even know if the adaptation with Keira Knightley even includes the Levin story. It might only focus on Anna Karenina's story. That it might only focus on that one because it's a movie, so it's going to only be like 2 hours at the longest. But anyway, I'm really enjoying this. Now, there are times when it gets to the point where they just start describing things like the agriculture and farming stuff, and some of the political stuff, even though I like it, it can be like, or even there's at one point where Anna and Vronsky are talking to an artist, which is really funny stuff because he's not wealthy like them. He's a lower class, so he's very poor. And art is his passion. He loves painting, and he's all about his art in the moment. And they go and visit him, and they're admiring his work, and he doesn't understand why they're so interested in old work and not his current work that he's working on. And their friend that's with them is trying to act like he knows so much about art, and he's trying to have this discussion with the artist, and the guy's the artist is just rolling his eyes and just humoring him, and then they ask him to paint Anna's portrait, and during those times when he's visiting and she's sitting for him, they're trying to have conversation with him, and he's not really responding. He's more formal and cold towards them, or at least in their point of view, he's very cold and doesn't really interact with her, like trying to engage him in discussion. And Vronsky has a hobby for art and painting and all that, and he's humoring him. The artist guy's humoring him, and then eventually they're all relieved that he's gone, and like he's done sketching her and everything. And his friend is all like telling Vronsky, "Oh, he's just jealous of your work." It's like, really? You think he's actually jealous? Like, you think he's actually jealous of Vronsky? And you get, and we do get the artist's thoughts, and you realize, and it's confirmed that he's not even jealous. He doesn't care. He's just annoyed by them, and he's relieved that he doesn't have to see them anymore, and he's amused by Vronsky's attempts at art. So it's just that interaction is so funny to me, and how they're just assuming, oh, he's jealous of Vronsky, and it's like, no, I'm not. I don't know what his artwork looks like, because I haven't seen adaptation, so I don't know what it's supposed to look like. But yeah, I was just like, that whole stuff, those chapters are just really funny. But anyway, it's really good, and it's just not a lot is going on, but it's just something about this story, that's what. And it's funny because this would have been considered contemporary when it came out, but yet I don't like today's contemporary, and I think it's because this is so far away from my life. While today's modern contemporary, I can relate to it to some extent, even if I'm not, like, I don't have a lot of, I haven't really dated, and I don't have, like, I'm an adult now, so I don't do a lot of stuff, I don't have a lot of the same drama that a lot of these people in contemporary works of today deal with, like relationship issues. I'm still a little closer to it than this, because, I see it every day, almost every day. So it's something that's familiar. And I think because this is so far away, because it's an older work and it was written a long time ago, so I think it's, it allows me to escape, in another, while today's contemporary, I don't necessarily escape. Which is why I like, horror and fantasy and sci-fi, because even if it's a situation where it takes place in the real world, I'm still, all this crazy shit is happening to these characters, and there's something magical or, supernatural, or, or aliens are coming or something. Or there's an apocalypse, And so, and that's also why I don't like, I'm iffy about people recommending stuff to me, because I know myself and I know what would interest me, but they don't necessarily. But I'll try, I will try myself recommending to people, and I will try to consider other people's recommendations. But I know what I'm interested in. And there's I like The Last of Us, but I have no interest in The Walking Dead. Even though it's a similar kind of situation. But it is there is a bit of a science fiction element to The Last of Us, because, yeah, it's a similar, zombie apocalypse scenario, but there's the instead of the traditional, all these corpses are rotting and they've been bitten by other zombies and all that, we have, there's a fungus going on. So it's a little close to home, because that it's they're playing off as it could really happen. But it still has a science fiction element, so that's why I like it, and the zombies are a little different. So that's the only time I might like contemporary stuff, and I like it in in a movie or a TV show, I'll watch it. But if it's a book, not my jam. But like I said, because this is so far away and I cannot see this in my everyday life, these kinds of scenarios. I mean, I kind of can, you could see people in these kinds of situations, but it's still in the past. And there's still, it still feels distant enough for me to enjoy it. So it's just kind of funny, that it is still, it would have been considered contemporary for the time it came out. But for me, it feels historical. It's historical because it happened so long ago, and it's in a country that I'm not familiar with, I'm not part of. And so that's, again, it's far enough away from my life that it doesn't feel too modern, if that makes any sense. But I am really enjoying this. I'm slowly making my way, and I want to try to finish this before I get Two Brothers Karamazov, which I need to figure out how to pronounce. I need to hear how that's pronounced again. I need to go on Google and figure that out. But yeah, see, I'm in section 5, part 5, which the way these are structured is really, it makes it easy to read. It's not that hard. And then I love the big print too. That's nice. But the way French, or at least my experience with French, now I haven't read much of Master Margarita yet, but so far the way Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, I still cannot pronounce his name, even if I heard how you pronounce his name, I probably would still get tongue-tied with it. But I like the structure because, first of all, the chapters are really short and it's divvying up. See, that's the next chapter, and it's divvying up. Although I understand people who complain about how they want a break. They want a brief reprieve, and if you do the next chapter right on the same page, then it takes away that reprieve. Unless you just stop reading. So I get that complaint, but and it's divided into parts. So not only is it big print, but it's divided into parts. There's 7 parts, I think. 7 or 8 parts. I don't know. I'll have to double check again. So there's a certain number. So it makes it easier to read. And it's the same thing with, I noticed that with Crime and Punishment too. And the same thing with when I did, because I have started and read some of Brothers Karamazov, but then I put it down because it was I want to knock when I'm reading novels that are kind of from a similar category. Like these are all Russian literature. I constantly am thinking, I need to read a certain book before I get to that one. I need to finish this other book before I start that one. Kind of mentality. Like, I need to finish Anna Karenina before I read another Tolstoy, or start another Tolstoy, like War and Peace, which I did technically start already. I just, stopped it for a while. And before I read, like, Dostoevsky with the Brothers Karamazov, I want to finish Anna Karenina, and I don't know if I want to start Master Margarita until I finish those books. So that's what ends up where I end up in situations where I'm like in the middle of several books. But yeah, I did put an order in right at midnight, although I did notice that the order date for one of the books was still on the 31st of March. Not that my mom needs to know that. But I was trying to resist and not buy anything in March, online at least, because I can't. The store thing, I can't not buy books. I can't go on a book by a man. I'm just, like, book reading is my only hobby, and I don't do anything else, so, and I get restless sometimes when I end up staying at home all day, and just, I don't, as much as I love reading, I'm not going to spend 24/7 reading, and also it's the only thing I do, when I go, if I go somewhere, or unless I'm going out to eat with my parents. Like, there's not a lot to do around here, and there's a cafe, so I could just sit in the cafe and read. There's like this one little place called Agora that's really nice, so I could go there like for lunch and stuff. I'm still spending money, but because I don't think they'll let you just go in there and sit, and they still want you to buy something, buy some food. But yeah, so there's really not a lot for me to do, so I end up feeling restless. I'm like, oh, I gotta do something, and then I use the excuse of going to the bookstore. And yes, before anyone says about the library, yes, I know, but when I go to the library, I prioritize the books I got from the library, and then my books end up sitting there, and I don't get to them, because I'm trying to prioritize my library books, and I can't go to the library without getting like 3 or 4 books. Like, there are some times where I might get 2, but I'll never go to the library just to get 1. So that's the only reason why I've been hesitant to go to the library, because I'm like, I know that when I go to the library, I will be prioritizing those library books, and then I feel like I won't get to my own books, and I want to get those books read. I don't want them to be sitting there. And as I've said repeatedly, I don't like to have to keep renewing books more than 2 or 3 times because it's taken me so long to read it. That's why I avoid the longer books, the tome size books, because I know it's going to take me a long time to read. I made exceptions here and there, but in the past. But it gives me anxiety and gives me anxious feelings when I don't, which I know I've repeated myself. I think because in the back of my mind, I keep, rehearsing what I would say to a person if they actually directly said something to me, which it did happen once. Not that long ago, that someone said, last year I think someone said something, and I explained to them that it just gives me anxious feelings when knowing that I have to that eventually I'm going to have to return this or renew it. So anyway, I don't know what I'm going to read, for the rest of spring. I do have some ideas. Like, I want to read those 2 books I bought about the Philippines, the history of the Philippines, and then Noli T. May Tangier. Sorry, I don't remember the title. That one, which is a Filipino classic. I want to read that one because May is my birthday month, and that's part of my Asian heritage, and I feel like I need to know more about that. I'm kind of disappointed that I never did learn the language. I know Tagalog is not a language people use here regularly, but I wish that because it's part of my heritage, I wish I knew more about it. But there are other influences on the language. Like, it's a little bit of a mixed bag with Tagalog and the Filipino culture. There's other influences. So, like, I could learn. So, Spanish would have been a good benefit if I had pursued it in middle school, but I kind of quit and gave up on it because, like, I was not good at it. I mean, but it was probably more that I was just lazy and didn't work hard enough. And I was just okay with the teacher. I remember in that Spanish class, the name I chose was my middle name, the Spanish version, and then I remember telling my mom or my sister or someone that the name of the character in Mask of Zorro, Zorro's wife, the name Esperanza was offered and was on the list too. And then I remember whoever I was talking to, my mom or my sister, was like, "Why didn't you choose that name?" Which now I wish I had chosen because it was so much prettier. I mean, I like my middle name and all, but it is pretty. I think Esperanza is a little prettier. But either way, I mean, it doesn't matter because I got lazy when I kind of gave up on it. I wish I hadn't, though. I wish I had stuck it out and not been lazy about it. So, lazy, not good. Don't be lazy when it comes to your, anything. Especially your education. And so at least some of the books I'm thinking of, because I did start taking out books off my shelf because I just reorganized my books and I went by my author, how many books by that author that I have. And then the ones I have a shelf of books where I only have one book by that author. And then I tried to organize certain within those stacks, within that pile of books. I tried to organize it with, the subject matter. And then I put all my mass markets on my new shelf because the way where it is in my room, the wall is has a slope, so I cannot put books that are tall on the top shelf. I want to use the top shelf, and I wanted to use it and not waste any space. So I did put I figured the mass markets that I still have, I put them up there. Although my mom did tell me not to put anything on there yet. Just let my shelf get acclimated to the temperature of my room and stuff. I do still have stuff on there. I never moved it. My mom didn't come back up to tell me I told you to move it. So yeah, my mom was trying to, because the shelf was in the garage and they were repainting it, like touching it up and stuff. It took a long time for me to get it. Like, it's been, almost a week since we finally brought it home from the person we were getting it from. And, which the only reason why we got it is because it's free. It was actually free. There's this app that's kind of like Facebook Marketplace. It's called the Nextdoor app, and I don't know if it's just a North Carolina thing. Because being North Carolina is the first time I heard it. And my cousin, who's from Charlotte, who was visiting last week, she also had access to that. So maybe it's a North Carolina thing. But this woman was selling a shelf, which I think she put like knickknacks and stuff on there, because there was a little thing on there that was like you could put plates, decorative plates on there. So maybe she was using it for like knickknacks and stuff. And she offered it to us. Either that or maybe her mom was offering. I mean, I didn't go. My parents, when they picked it up, I stayed home. But yeah. So I think maybe she put like knickknacks, and maybe she put knickknacks and stuff, because there was a little ridges where you could put plates and stuff. At least that's what my mom told me it was for. But they did touch it up and repaint it, and now basically I have all these shelves that are different shades of white. Which I think is really funny that all my shelves are like white, different shades of white. And so she painted, so it's painted white now. Before it was kind of a aqua color, which it might have been close to matching. Well, it was probably more green. Like I said, aqua's kind of a greenish color. So, and my walls are gray. Like if it had been kind of closer to blue, then maybe it could have stayed. But then it would match my other shelves, which even though it technically does not, it's a different shade of white, but still in that family. Um, and then finally got up there, and as soon as my mom was, as soon as we got there, my dad finally was able to, which I was surprised, And I even asked him if he wanted our neighbor's help, if he wanted to, get our neighbor's help, and if that was the case, he might have sent me to get them, but he didn't. He brought it up for me, although it is a little wobbly. It doesn't make me nervous. So if my nephews or my nieces in there, I'm gonna have to make sure they don't touch the shelf, don't climb on it, or if any of the other kids in my life are visiting in my room, hopefully they will never touch that shelf, because that's a very wobbly shelf, and I don't need any little ones being crushed. I cannot live with that, and so hopefully they won't be. But I'll have to keep my door closed. If we have family with little kids visiting, I'm going to probably keep my door closed and keep them out of my room. And the only way that they'll come in my room is if someone's in there. Probably let my mom and sister know. Be like, my mom will understand. I'll have to let my sister know. Let her know that I got a new shelf and it's a little wobbly. So just in case, unless you trust your kids enough, don't take them in my room unless you're in there with them. Or if they're so caught up in their TV show. But yeah, that kind of made me a little nervous. I'm nervous about myself. I mean, not that I'm gonna go monkeying on the shelf, but yeah. So also, I may as well, since I don't really have a lot to say, I'll just go talk about the adaptations I've watched. So I watched season 2 of Shadow and Bone, which I like it so far. I think it's one of the better adaptations compared to others, but it did change some things in season 2, and it seemed like it was mushing together books 2 and 3, so they could get to the Six of Crows stuff, because I know everyone prefers that over the Grisha trilogy. So, and of course, they're combining those stories, so it's like it makes sense they bring them. So I'm wondering what they're going to do with the Grisha stuff. If they're going to mostly focus on Six of Crows, or we're going to get... Well, I guess what they're probably going to do is include the Nikolai duology. And I say that because he's not the only main... He's not the main character. But, yeah, maybe they'll include that stuff. Because they did end it with... They ended the final episode of season 2 does end with what happens to, Nikolai. And there were some things that I want to see them do that they left out. Like, some big things. Or some very nice visuals, like, that they left out. But as Elliot Brooks said, maybe they can still do those things in the later seasons. But I was kind of looking forward to some things, like Alina's hair turning white. She uses so much power that her hair turns white at one point. I wanted to see that, but maybe they didn't want to. Maybe Jessie May didn't want to do that with her hair. I don't know. Like, she didn't want to wear a wig or like dye her hair white or whatever. But I would love to see that. And there's something that happens to Nikolai that we haven't seen yet. Like, it does sort of happen at the end of the second book, going into the third book in the trilogy. But they didn't really include that. So, but maybe they'll include it later. Maybe we'll see that thing later. But I'm still enjoying that. But I'm also one of those people that doesn't complain about adaptations all that much. And that's partly because there was a time when I would watch the movie or the TV show first before I read the book. Even though I've always been a reader, I would always get to the adaptation first, and then I learned, oh wait, it has an adaptation. Maybe you should watch it. But yeah, and then a non-book related thing I watched was I finally watched Nope, but the latest Jordan Peele movie, and I knew it was gonna happen because I watched this channel on this one channel, Ending Explained, where they explain what happened, where he narrates and explains what happens in horror books and explains the ending if you were confused. So I kind of use that as a cheat and watch in case, because sometimes I'm in a mood where I don't want to watch a horror movie, and I don't like going to the movies by myself, not because I get scared or anything, but just it's boring for me going to the movies by myself, and I also feel very weird and awkward, and then I end up being surrounded by other people, complete strangers, at least with someone else, a friend or family member, you have their presence, with you to comfort you, not because, again, I don't get scared, but I mean, I do get scared but it's not like when I'm in the movies I'm gonna scream or I might, jump a little bit, but anyway, or go or something, but mostly, but so finally it's on Prime, so we finally watched it. I finally watched it when my dad put it on, and I was like, oh, what's this? And then I realized what it was. I'm like, you know what? I might as well watch it. So I did. I watched it twice now, because it's one of those movies where you almost have to watch it twice. I mean, it really helped that I watch reviews afterwards where people point in those channels that do Easter egg, going through the whole movie and giving all Easter eggs of what's some of the Easter eggs in the movie and stuff. And so having watched those, I knew what to look for and when watching it. So, and it was cool to actually physically see some of the things that people were talking about, in those reviews, Ending Explained in Grace from Beyond the Trailer, her review of the movie. It was kind of nice to because I watched those before I watched the actual movie, I knew what to look for. And I still enjoyed the movie. I'm not one of those people that's bothered if I know what's going to happen and I enjoy it. I can still enjoy it even if I know what's what. But it was really good. Now, I haven't watched his other movies. I watched little bits of Get Out. And I've seen a scene or two of Us, but I've never sat down and watched them, so that's why so far this is my favorite, because he's the only one I really ever watched out of his movies. But again, I also, watched the Ending Explained of Get Out, so I know what happened, essentially. But one day I will watch them, actually sit and watch those movies. But it's so cool. And it was really cool to see some of the stuff that they talked about in the review, that the stuff that was oh my god, I have to watch that. I'm that kind of person. I'm a weird person who's I have to see the morbid stuff. I mean, maybe I'm not that weird, but I mean, especially since that movie was about speculation and people love watching stuff that's messed up, where really, people like to watch things and turn everything to a spectacle. That's the whole theme of that movie. But yeah, some of the stuff in there was when I heard about it, there was some stuff that were oh, okay, I gotta see this. I gotta get the visual of this, and not just hear people tell me about it, but I actually need to see it. So I got around to it and finally watched it. And it was really good. It was a really good movie. It's not your typical alien movie though, and it's not your typical horror movie. So I didn't really go. It's very, very different story. It's a more thought-provoking type of story. But it's really good. So I do know some of the books I'm thinking about reading for the springtime are The Secret Garden, for obvious reasons. If you don't know what this classic is about, we have our main character, Mary Lennox. She is a young girl raised in India with her parents, but then her parents die, and she ends up having to be sent across the ocean to live with her uncle in his big, huge mansion. He barely interacts with her, occasionally calls her to visit with him just to do his duty and spend time, to see her and see how she's getting on. And the only people she interacts with are Miss Medlock, Martha, and Martha's brother Dickon. And then later, her cousin Colin, her uncle's son, who is severely handicapped. Although they use the word cripple. And she spends time with him because he's the only person her age there that she can spend time with, because of course the servants are going to spend time with her. And Dickon, I think, is also around the same age as them. So, and they discover, or she discovers, this magical garden that is her uncle's wife's garden, Colin's mother's garden, and they go in there and they bring it back to life. So I have not read the book. I started which I feel really sad about this, which I've already explained the story when I first got this book, that originally I had a different copy. I had that like mint green copy with the beautiful picture of, Mary looking into the garden in the middle. I had that one. And that one was a gift from a friend that I had almost like that something happened between me and this friend in elementary school, and another girl that we were friends with, where she was, and it was a kind of experience where I got a little bit bullied, and this girl didn't know that it happened and felt terrible about it, and she got me a gift. She got me a pop-up book of the Secret Garden and then a copy of the book, which was a really nice gift. I liked it, but I never got around to physically reading that copy. And then it was sitting there for so long, and I feel bad. The good news is Christina probably will never come across this video, and if she does, that was her name, Christina, because I did mention to her, but she probably doesn't remember. We haven't, the only time I see her now is Instagram, because it's just, we went separate directions after when college happened. But yeah, I feel bad that I ended up basically donating the book, and then I bought this copy because I really liked these editions. And these types of editions, these paper mill classics, were the ones I saw at that little used bookstore in not Asheville, but the other place. I cannot remember the other town we went to. That was recommended. It was one that was recommended to us. I want to spend more time in Asheville though, which is just important. But my parents, we did it just for the day, and so it's one of these things. And if we wanted to do both places, we couldn't spend as much time. So yeah, it was I wish I had spent more time in Asheville, but my dad was like, "Oh, it's not that, that's it. It's not a big deal." But for me, I thought it was really cool, and I would love to go there again, just spend the day there again. But yeah, I don't know how I'll get a chance to do that, but I would love to. But anyway, so this I think would be great for me to read this spring. And then let me go ahead. I'm only showing you the books I have because I have other books I'm considering for this spring, but I'm gonna have to go through. Actually, and I didn't finish telling you, I'm reading those. And then you guys, well, I think I did finish it, but I'm gonna read those books about the Philippines in May. Those are definitely gonna happen in May, but I might start them in April. But I also want to start this one as well, Mansfield Park. Because I've been wanting to reread it. Because now the only book that I have left of her, other than her Juvenilia, is Lady Susan, and the only copy I have that is in that big, fancy bind-up edition. And that's just too much to read. The print is small, it's too heavy because all of her work is in that one bind-up. Well, not all of it, not her Juvenilia, but a lot of her most famous works is in that big book, and I can't take it with me places. So if I'm gonna ever get a copy of her work, so if I want to get a separate copy of Lady Susan and then some of her Juvenilia, which I should put that on my thrift books list. Anyway, and then also, what was the other thing I was gonna say? I can't remember. It's gonna pop in my head any minute, but hopefully. Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that I have decided to let Northanger Abbey go and donate it. I did read it. It was okay. It was good. It was cute and funny, but it wasn't my favorite on Austin's work. Which I felt bad because that was her first one, or her first one that she ever wrote. But it just didn't do anything for me. It was funny and cute, but I wish there were more to the story. Let's put it that way. I wish they had done more with it. It felt like it was missing some stuff. But I still love Mansfield Park, and there are some things about it that are a little bit like, I do not like Edmund Bertram. I think she could have done better. Could have done better. And I did tell one time in my comments on the Bookish Princesses video, I remember telling her that I think her love story, that it would be a more interesting love story with her and Henry Crawford. Even though he's a bad boy, he would have to change quite a bit and redeem himself. But I think his redemption story with him would be so much more interesting than her relationship with Edmund Bertram. Or at least what she could have done is redeemed his character, but still have Fanny not choose him and walk away from him, but like allow him some redemption. Like tell him to I mean, and maybe he did get some redemption. I don't remember. I don't think he did. I think he still was a player by the end of the book. But I think that would have been so much more interesting. Like, at least give him a chance to redeem himself. Because there were moments where it seemed like he genuinely cared about Fanny and liked her and admired her. And maybe in a way he wanted to better himself. Maybe that's just my imagination. I'm just reaching here. Or maybe it's not or like it's just my interpretation there, where I felt like there were at least some moments where it seemed like he could redeem himself. And I would have loved to see that story over her romance with Edmund Bertram. I mean, she could still end up with Edmund, because he's the one that she loved. Which I sound like those people who did not like Mal and Alina. I remember that's another thing I'm curious about, how people reacted, because they went a different direction with Mal and Alina in the show in season 2 than they do in the books. So I'm also curious how people respond to that one. I'm gonna have to, when I'm done filming these videos, I'm gonna look up reviews again, look at more reviews for season 2, and see what other people think about the direction they went in season 2. But anyway, yeah, this is another one I want to read. It kind of it fits the spring aesthetic with the colors. So with the, so this is definitely, and then at some point which I might save this one for May. I'm finally going to read Anne of Green Gables. I really like these editions, and I want to get, what's it called? They have a little princess, which I'm gonna read. I'm hesitant to read because I know it ends sadly. I got spoiled for that and for the ending of that one. But I still want to get it in this edition, and then at some point, and then there's also, they have Heidi in this edition as well, so I want to get those as well. I haven't had much luck finding them at stores, so I might end up getting them online. But yeah, I love, but yeah, I hear so much about Anne of Green Gables, and there's so many people that love it. And I want to be someone that, because I always feel weird about reading middle grade literature, because first of all, the writing is very different. I'm not the target audience, and then I feel like, I try not to think about this, but I feel like people are judging me for reading a book that's meant for kids. And I know deep down, I know that they're probably really not judging me and they don't care. But there are people that occasionally make comments. Like one time I went to our library and I was looking in the middle grade section because they hadn't the YA books had been moved. And then it was all, there was some still YA books in the front, but in the front of the library, but there was mostly middle grade books. And then the librarian, she saw me look over there and she was like, the YA books are over there, if you want to know. It's like, yes, thank you. I'm fine. I like middle grade. I read middle grade too. And I already have an issue because people, and they mean as a compliment, I know, that I look so young. So they think, oh, I'm so, I read YA because I'm a teenager. But it has, people are starting to see that I look like I'm in my 20s, so that helps. But, still, and I know people tell me, but when you get old and gray, you look so great. And it's like, I know that, but people don't take younger people that seriously all the time. And they just think they're cute and naive and... But anyway, so yeah, I have insecurities about reading middle grade, and I want to get comfortable in middle grade and not care that people... But, there have been moments like that where people think And, you know, I know some of you guys are probably going to say, who cares what that person thought? And, like, or maybe you misinterpreted, or, like, you know, you want to read what you want to read, and I know that. But I still just get a little, like, I'm working on it. Like, that's why I'm reading stuff like this. And also the writing style sometimes can just be a little, you know, like, simple for me. A little too simple for me. I definitely have to be in the mood for this kind of writing to really appreciate it. But I know it's a series, and unfortunately, as the woman at the bookstore said where I bought this, the independent bookstore I bought this, that she said that the other books in the series are not in this. So the rest of the series, if I buy it, and if I decide to continue with it, then I'll get the rest of the series in paperback. I mean, I guess I could, if it's this size, similar size to this, get the rest of the series in hardback. Because this size, because depending on the length, like some of Stephen King's books, I'm hesitant, and some to have the hardback versions. Like there's my copy of Sleeping Beauty. Like I still have some of the hardbacks of Stephen King. Like I have Sleeping Beauties, 11, 22, 63, and Desperation, all in hardback. Still, I have not gotten rid of it yet, and I'm debating about keeping it. Because they're big books. He writes long. His books are long. But anyway, so I'm gonna do that, and I don't know what Stephen King to read, because I want to read some more. I mean, I guess Wizard of Glass I'm gonna continue with. And then I feel like I need to read at least another Stephen King book, but I don't know when it will be. But anyway, so maybe Bag of Bones, or at least Bag of Bones will be. I think Bag of Bones will be a summer read. I'll read that during the summer. But yeah, I might save this for May. And then I'm thinking about Middlemarch, continuing my reread of Middlemarch for spring, because it feels like a spring book. And then I got the Family Parsonage. I gotta read that one. That's the 5th book, I think, in the Barchester Towers series. So I'm gonna read that one. And then I grabbed The Last Kingdom. I need to finally start this series. Because I did read a little bit, but I think I need to read a little bit more. Read like a good chunk of it in one sitting. So there's that. And then the last book that I have here. Well, Eyes of the Dragon might be a good option for the springtime. I might read Eyes of the Dragon for spring, because I decided to keep that one. Originally I was going to get rid of it and donate it, but I think I'm going to keep it and read it, because it's also a thin book. It's not a big book. But then I'm also gonna read Dune, Children of Dune, as well, because I need to get this one. This might be a summer read though. I don't know. I need to look at my books and decide which ones I'm gonna read for the summer. The problem is the risk of that is if I plan too far ahead, then I might not. I might change my mind if I plan too much in advance. But I'm gonna try. I always am ready to try. I always do try, even if it's so these two I might not read this. I mean, this one I probably should. Actually, both of these I probably should read sooner rather than later. Okay, so that's kind of my update. I don't know what the rest of my TBR will be for the springtime, but I'm going to go through my books and pick. But unfortunately, I also can't just take them off my shelf and put them aside, because my mom will have an opinion on that every time she comes to my room. You know, she sees books piled on the floor. She has an opinion. She doesn't like that, because she doesn't like clutter and so I don't know, but I'm gonna probably just write down the books I'm considering for spring. Make a list. I mean, I have sticky notes, so I could do that. Like, I know people will do that, but like maybe do a sticky note on my books and be like, this is for spring, but anyway, I probably won't, because then, you know, I won't want to keep them on there forever, and it might leave residue and stuff like that. So I'll probably write them down in my binder. Anyway, so that's kind of my update right now for spring, for how I'm gonna start out my reading. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't, if you haven't, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. And I hope you are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you all later.